She whispered a secret no one took seriously, until the ground gave up a truth that left the whole town shaken. It started on a rainy Monday. The third-grade class was cutting shapes from colored paper when little Ivy raised her hand, eyes wide, voice steady. "Miss Tanner," she said, "my daddy sleeps under the tiles." The class giggled. Miss Tanner chuckled awkwardly. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Ivy blinked. "Under the floor, at Grandma's house, in the back room. He told me." The room fell quiet for a second, but Miss Tanner brushed it off as a child's imagination. Kids said strange things all the time. Still, that sentence echoed in her head hours later while she wiped down her whiteboard. That week, Ivy kept repeating it. At lunch, in art class, even during quiet reading time. "My daddy's under the tiles. He said not to be scared. He's just sleeping." Eventually, a counselor was called in. Ivy's mom, Dana, showed up in tears, saying she didn't know why Ivy was saying these things. "Her father left years ago," Dana explained. "He just walked out. No note, no calls, nothing." That detail stuck with Miss Tanner. A man disappearing without a trace. A little girl insisting he was under the house. Something didn't feel right. Miss Tanner tried to let it go, but the more Ivy spoke, the more specific she got. "He wore his green jacket," she said once during snack time. "The one with the broken zipper. It was zipped up when he laid down." "Another day," she added softly. "He was cold when he hugged me goodbye." But he smiled. He wasn't scared. Miss Tanner finally contacted a local officer she knew from town, Officer Reeds. She didn't present it as a crime, just something strange a student kept repeating. Reeds laughed at first, but agreed to swing by Dana's house just to put minds at ease. He walked around the house, asked a few polite questions, even peeked into the back room Ivy had mentioned. It looked like any other guest room. Worn carpet, dusty window blinds, and beige ceramic tiles covering half the floor. Dana shrugged when he asked about renovations. "That part used to be a pantry or something, I think. My parents tiled over it years ago. Just makes the room look clean." Still, something gnawed at him. A little girl repeating the same story. A father who vanished. Tiles laid down without reason. Reeds went back with a warrant after speaking with his captain and pulling up the cold file on Ivy's dad. 2 hours later, the digging began. Neighbors watched from porches. Ivy sat in the front seat of the officer's car, holding a stuffed bear. At 2:14 p.m., the sound of a shovel clinked against something solid. Not tile. Bone. The entire backyard went silent. Dana collapsed onto the porch steps. Ivy just watched calmly, like she had been waiting for someone to finally believe her. They found the green jacket, too. Broken zipper and all. The town erupted in whispers by nightfall. News vans lined the street. Reporters spoke of the mystery girl, the buried man, and the house that hid a truth for nearly 5 years. But through it all, Ivy stayed quiet. She didn't cry. She didn't ask questions. She just kept clutching that old stuffed bear like it was the only part of her world that still made sense. At the station, Dana sat frozen, face pale, lips cracked from shock. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I didn't know." But things didn't add up. Ivy's father, Tom, had filed no paperwork, used no cards, left no trail. His car had been found a year after he vanished, parked near a lake, with no signs of a struggle. They assumed he had run. But now the forensics team said something else. He didn't run. He was hit from behind. Hard. Buried hurriedly, covered up in concrete. The broken tile job looked rushed, uneven. Amateur. Then came the bigger twist. An anonymous call came into the station the next morning. A male voice, shaky, muffled. "You're looking in the wrong direction," he said. "It wasn't her." Then the line went dead. The officers reopened everything. They went over Dana's phone records, old letters, emails, even Ivy's drawings. That's when they noticed something strange. Ivy had been drawing a man in a green jacket for weeks before anyone found the body, but always with something behind him. Black boots. A second pair of legs, not her mother's. Bigger. Someone else had been there, someone Ivy remembered, but hadn't spoken of yet. And now they realized she might be the only one who knew what really happened that night. A child psychologist was brought in to speak gently with Ivy, using games, drawings, and soft questions. At first, Ivy stayed quiet, fingers tracing circles into her jeans, but eventually she whispered something no one expected. "It wasn't Mommy," she said, eyes fixed on the wall. "Mommy was sleeping when it happened." "Who was it then, Ivy?" the doctor asked, careful not to push too hard. Ivy hesitated, then pulled out one of her crayon drawings. In it, the man in the green jacket stood near the tiles again. Behind him, a taller figure with red lines on his sleeves. Not a child's color choice. These were details. "That's Grandpa," she said quietly. "He was mad at Daddy. He said Daddy was going to take us away." The room went still. Dana's father, George, had passed away only a year ago. He had lived with them back then, after his stroke, and had always been fiercely protective of Dana. He never liked Tom, claimed he was lazy, that he'd never be good enough for his daughter. Detectives reopened George's files too, but there had been no signs of suspicion back then. Just an old man dying in his sleep. Now everything felt different. When officers checked old home footage recovered from a cloud backup, they found a few blurred clips. One of George and Tom arguing in the backyard late at night. Another, a silent recording from the hallway camera. Tom entering the back room, George following moments later. Tom was never seen again. The case was officially closed 2 weeks later. The final report said George likely attacked Tom after a heated argument, possibly out of fear that Tom planned to move his family out of state. Dana had slept through it, sedated by her usual sleep medication. The next morning, George tiled over the room himself. And for years, Ivy carried that secret, not even knowing it was real. As reporters packed up and the cameras left, Ivy sat by the window of her new home, placed in the care of her aunt, far from the town's noise. She looked calm, finally. The psychologist asked one last time, "Why did you keep saying he was sleeping?" Ivy shrugged, hugged her bear, and said softly, "Because he told me not to be scared. He kissed my head and said, 'It's just a nap, sweet pea.'" And somehow she believed him, even when no one else did.